Good evening, all. Just checking the audio levels, making sure that we are live, and I'm not muted. That'll be good. Welcome in. Good to see everyone. Base Truther, Space Saga, Chief Paranoid Officer, Jamlack, Burger Pops. Good to see you, my friend. Long time no see. Ray Louderbeck and Citizen Ninja Sloth. Good to see you all. And I hope you're doing well. So lighting's all over the place at the minute. Had a little bit of fun today moving stuff around. I'm not ready to tell you why yet, but stuff, things, stuff. I don't want to bang into stuff, basically. Luna Maria, good to see you. Glad you can make it. Yeah, so second stream of the year, and finally, we've got some info back from Star Citizen about what's going on and what we can expect this year. There is every chance that my camera comes to freeze. It's been doing stuff again today, and I've not had chance to restart the PC. So if it does freeze, just shout at me in chat. I'll see it eventually. But yeah, we've got a few things to talk about. We've got all the info dump that's been released, as well as we're actually going to watch the Inside Alpha 4.6 Inside Star Citizen that came out last week, because there's a lot of information in there that is critical to how this year plays out, and also hints at maybe what may or may not be happening this year. So that's going to be worth looking at, I think. And that is very, very bright. Let's just set that aside slightly, and hopefully I don't look as washed out. That screen's colour's not as great anyway, so hopefully I don't look too bad. I have just gotten out of the shower. This isn't me greasy. This is me just drying off. So I'm even washed for you guys. How's that? Yeah, only happens once a year. It was that day today, so that's good news. Hopefully, yeah, Luna confirms. So hopefully that'll just cool that down ever so slightly. And if I go over here, hopefully, oh no, that made it worse. That made it worse. Don't do that. Anyway, so that's where we are. So it very shortly will pop across, and we will have a look at all of the news that's been happening in and around the Star Citizen universe, starting with their monthly report. I've even made some notes. Check me out. I have a notepad full of stuff, so that's going to be good. I can't read it. I've put it up there now. I've written it as size I can't read it. So there we go. But there we are. So without, I fucking hate that phrase. Why? Why was I going to do it without further ado? There's no, you've already been a doing. There is no undoing the a-doing. Let's just go across to the monthly report and see what badges picked out of that as being important. Do you know what? It's a fairly big one because that's what she said. Because of that's it. I've just lost it now. This is all it's all going horribly wrong. This is what happens when Badger's pre-games and has a can of cider with his tea. So dinner. So I'm halfway through my second can, and this is what happens. My brain just stops doing braining things, and I just say rude stuff on stream. So yeah, my bad. Single track, good to see you, my friend. Here's what I managed to pick out of the report. And apologies, it probably won't match up with on the screen, although I can already see the first thing that I want to talk about, because why CIG? Why? The creature pipeline is now known as Star Paws. Oh dear. That was not on my bingo this year. So yeah, Star Engine, Star Cloth, Star Hair, Star Delay, and now Star Paws. So yeah, there we go. There's that. What's really interesting about the AI tech side of things is what it seems to. You wish that's what she said. Rude, Luna. Rude. Honestly, you come in, you abuse me. I don't know what I'm doing. So, what's really interesting here is the references to the Valakar. Okay, so worked on the Valakar, improving its ability to utilize submerged positions while avoiding hills. The Valakar doesn't need to avoid hills, unless they're talking about one that's moving around. As far as best my recollection suits, the irradiated Valakar at Stormbreaker, there aren't hills for it to deal with. So, the Valakar can now attack inanimate objects. So why? Why does it need to do that? So there we go. That's that. It also talks about There's something else in here with the Valakar as well. Let me have a look at the notes because I'm not finding it here. So it talks about the planetary navigation that is currently only available with the Valakar. And I'm trying to find out where that is. That's in here somewhere. But it basically talks about the improvements to the planetary nav mesh are currently only available on the Valakar. Again, there you go. This bit here. I was staring straight at it. AI planetary navigation improvements were made to allow easier changes to physics terrain patch resolution. Although currently only available on the Valakar, this update is planned for release in the 4.6 patch. Once again, ambiguous warning. Does that mean we're going to get a moving Valakar in 4.6? I'm guessing not. Does that mean that that's going to be rolled out to other things in 4.6? But again, why does the Valakar need planetary navigation improvements when it generally only tends to come up in one spot in Stormbreaker? So that's an interesting kind of take there, and it's not entirely clear what's going on, but there are hints that something is happening. Do you know what? We'll scoot down to one of the key parts in here. Before we get there, on the gameplay side, animators work towards finalising Spec Ops AI combat set as well as 2 other human sets. So that's interesting for FPS players. Some sort of new animation. Whether that means that they get more movie, I'm not sure. But they're talking about the really big Valakar from CitizenCon 2954. That's what I thought, Space Saga. The fact that it moves, the movement, the avoiding hills, the attacking inanimate objects, like parked ships and stuff, seems to hint very strongly at that, but it's not explicit. So I didn't want to go ahead and say for sure. Right, ships. Everybody's favourite bit. The key thing to take from here, Gatak Railen has entered production. Entered production mid-November last year and is currently white box phase. So that's quite exciting. For those that have seen the video, and it'll tell you again in just a moment, the Aurora is doing its gold pass. That'll be released in 4.6. Hammerhead's gold pass continues. It says areas were refined across the ship, as well as breaking out various parts into an Aegis kit for use across future ships as per MSI, MISC, RSI, and Drake. So that's, again, like we've seen before, these kits that they're building to allow ships to be built quicker by the developers. The Aegis Hammerhead will be the base for that, and they'll start to break that out and copy that out across. Hull B's past white box review, now in grey box. The Ironclad Assault, which clears that up, it's both Ironclads, and Command Module are progressing towards their grey box reviews. So that was interesting. Yeah. So Hull B would be nice as Edison, yeah, absolutely. The first playable review gate of the command module's functionality was completed mid-December. So they've actually tested, it looks like, the command module attaching or detaching or both from the Ironclad, which is exciting. That was something that I was expecting to see much, much later. Even though they were talking about it, I was expecting that to get kicked down the road. But they're at the point where they can actually test it, so that's kind of excited. UTV, yeah, great. The Galaxy is now in pre-production. I shouldn't be dismissive of the UTV, but it's in development. And the interesting thing here, motion capture session to add a new enter-exit animation. So there seems to be a new way of getting into this vehicle. Maybe climbing up into the cab would be kind of cool, a la trucker style. Galaxy, now in pre-production, as I've said before. And this is what I find quite misleading about these reports. So here we have 4 currently unannounced vehicles, and then down here we have 2 unannounced vehicles. Are they the same thing? Or are they different? What I'm guessing is what's happened here is these are different studios that are working on various things, and the studios are basically reporting back, which is why we're getting it reported twice. But it says here, closest to release has passed both its white box and grey box reviews, with only a few minor technical details needing further iteration. So I'm guessing that's something smaller, larger ships, more to go wrong. The second is progressing quickly due to the availability of its existing brand kit. The third passed white box following a hugely successful concept stage. And the fourth, from a manufacturer that hasn't been worked on for a while, entered production after the initial concept phases resolved issues with its interior components. Maybe that's an Origin ship? I don't know. What do we think? What are the guesses? Basically, a bunch of stuff moving through here. And then this bit here. The first ended 2025 with a review gate in preparation for its early 2026 release. Sounds like it might be the Hermes, which again we'll look at in the YouTube video for all of the 2 seconds that it's on the screen. And then the second moved through white box with a team focusing on its unique hero rooms, which is an interesting idea. Yeah, there's that. I thought they said Consolidated Outland wasn't coming this year. But we weren't getting anything from Consolidated Outland because everyone said that rules the Pioneer out. Hello, Spicy. Good to see you. Yeah, so cool new ships, cases, but one of those been won, and one of those is, I think the Vandal one is that they've kept it, and the other one's gone to someone in the giveaway. So check, see if you won. Okay, so going back to the notepad then, because otherwise I'm just reading it off the screen, and that's really, really boring. There wasn't actually that much left in here. I'm sure people are going to go, yeah, but. Okay, we'll talk about it now, and then we'll talk about it a little bit later on if there's stuff that comes on. Here's the key thing, and if you've watched Astropub or the others, you will already be aware of this. But throughout November and December, the team progressed its next major feature, crafting, to tech preview readiness, which enabled a limited round of Ironclad testing conducted yesterday. This is obviously just before this was released. The initial preview included the core loop of creating various items and adjusting their stats based on material quality. Additional recent work on the feature includes shop support for material quality and the ability to sell partially full or mixed containers, which I'm sure miners will be very, very happy with, but there you go. Progress also made on the main crafting UI, including the queue screen, selecting the delivery destination for crafted items, refunding materials, and functionality to dismantle previously crafted items, which is kind of cool. I don't think I've heard of them talk about that before. At this stage, the core functionality is present. The devs are preparing to review player feedback before polishing the feature ahead of its eventual release. So we've had Ironclad, still expecting this to go to tech preview. I think Jared talked about that, that it might go to tech preview, although whether that was widespread, I'm not quite sure. We'll have a look in the video. But there is stuff going. There's stuff towards the improved flight model now being talked about. This bit here, which is good news for most of us, I think. And here's what's really interesting about the command module. The first playable version of the feature was presented, showcasing seamless handover of the controls from the host ship to the command module and back. So this was both docking and undocking, or coupling and uncoupling, whatever you want to call it. This work also allowed them to address various docking relating issues and improve the debug tools. So that's really, really cool. Okay, and it's also good news for people with who have problems with freight elevators and the existing transit system. Time has now been dedicated to fixing that. Okay, and they are working on as well. So there you go. They've obviously They've hit the low-hanging fruit. They've kind of, targeted the bits that are easy to target, addressing bugs with very high reproductions or issues that had tendency to manifest permanently, and they'll hopefully dig down into the other stuff as well. So that's good news too. Mission system stuff is coming, and so on and so forth. Yeah, all I know, my biggest takeaway about the mission system, back when they had that bit of a snafu when, the Frontier fighters emerged and we were all told that we should have figured it out, and actually it was just the data pads weren't working, so we couldn't read stuff, right? they said over and over again at that point that what they really wanted was Mission System V2 because it'll allow them to do so much more. And making the missions feel a little bit more individual and not just mass produced, repetitive, no variation is going to be welcome. It's in fact, for me, it's one of the things that I want to see them do the most. It's kind of boring watching them just doing the same thing over and over again. It makes the rep grind absolutely painful. But there we go. I don't even know. What have I written there? I don't even know what that says. I can't read my own handwriting. This is rubbish. I can't read what that says. There we go. Something about Wicklow. Don't care. So they are looking at cap ship refueling. The cockpit light amplification has made it in. For those that have seen it, I couldn't get it to work on my Terrapin, but for those that have seen it, I'm sure it's very, very good. Okay. And one of the fun things that I've kind of seen in here, okay, is that derelict space station missions are coming back. For those that remember, in Stanton, there was the Gundo shipping hub, basically suffered a major malfunction, was now derelict in 0G. There were missions in there that were really cool. They were non-combat missions. They were missions where you could there was a mission where you could kind of choose when you think you had enough information. And that sort of deciding how far you want to take a contract and then hand it over when you feel like you've resolved it or where you don't want to go any further. I really like that as a mechanic in this, and I think, the more missions they get based on that system, the better. And the last bit, there we go, alongside bringing derelict space station missions back to Stanton. Woohoo! The last bit, of course, is that they are working on item recovery tier 1. They've had another workable demo, so hopefully we'll see that soon. So there we go. Online services team shared an internal tech demo demonstrating what will be coming with item recovery tier 1. With this, they were able to properly establish the priority needs of downstream teams, which says to me it's not going to be immediate, because if they're only establishing priorities for the other teams need to go and do it, and they need to make sure that it all works together and that sort of stuff. But maybe this is an indication that we'll go back to being able to loot everything off someone rather than having armor and weapons and that sort of stuff that can't be taken off because it solves the I paid for it and now I don't have it issue. We can only hope. You guys are quiet this evening. Is it something I've said or not said? Why are you guys not talking? What's going on in there? Are you still alive? Let me know that there's still someone in the chat. You guys have all banded together and say, let's not say anything and see how long it takes him to notice, haven't you, you sods? Is it just like, is this, if everyone knows that this is a thing, like, I can chit can it. Excuse the language. If everyone's like, yeah, been through the progress report, we can just move on. Shoveling your driveway. Like that's an excuse. Get back in here. No, you stay safe, mate. And stay warm, more to the point. Hey, Fabio, good to see you, my friend. He's on to us. Yeah, hello, Julio, good to see you. Okay. So, for those that, in case you've missed it, ships from last year have reappeared. Most of the, if not all of the ships that were released last year have come back again for a limited period of time. If you want to get them, upgrade to them, you can have them. So there you go. Jamlack, have you only just got out of Clasher, you monster? Hey, Stunner, good to see you. I will start another beer. It might be a little bit more chatty. Sounds like a good plan. It's always good. Well, cheers, mate, anyway. Oh, damn, that's not good. That's not good at all. Sorry to hear that, Chief Paranoid. Yeah, so all these ships have reappeared for a little time. If there's anything you wanted to upgrade to, you can also obviously do the upgrade. So if you want to go up to the Prowler, then you can do, etc., with all of them. So that's good news. And there are a couple, I believe, of war bonds in here. For example, it the Fortune I saw? Yeah, so there are a couple of war bonds sat in here as well. Not all of them, some of them. So that's kind of cool. I don't think the Prowler had one. Or does it? Yeah, Prowler's got one as well. So that's nice. I don't think the Asgard, when I looked. I know it does as well. If all of them got war bonds, I'm sure I clicked on one and there was no upgrade to it. I'm convinced. Or war bond upgrade. But maybe I don't know, maybe I'm just making it up. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Who are you? Where am I? What's going on? But there you go. So, that's all that. Nothing much in there. And then I started wondering why, and there was only one way to answer that question, and that's this. So the question then was, well, why are they putting everything back on sale? No, it's not, they've done this before. They've gone and put stuff that was on sale back on sale, so it's they do it all the time with like the concierge stuff and concierge get to buy later. I don't remember it quite being like this, but I'm sure someone will tell me that I'm wrong if I am. However, a little glance at this, maybe we're a little bit under where we should be. There's only 5 days left and we're up at 5 mil. So maybe they felt like they needed to throw a little bit more out there for people to go, especially seeing as we haven't had a ship released so far this month. Maybe they didn't want to fall too far behind the curve. I mean, I'm not expecting them to go past this, dependent on the launch of Squadron 42. But yeah, there we go. So, there's that bit. Now, what we could do, and what I think would be a really good idea to do, is watch through a little bit of the introduction to 4.6. It's only 8 minutes long, and let's see, because there's a couple of really important bits in here to cover.
Each year of Star Citizen brings with it a new beginning, including new content, new opportunities, and oftentimes a few new ways of doing things. It's an essential element of Star Citizen's DNA, where we don't just build the game out in front of everyone, we continue to review, refine, and redirect our efforts, as well as the very manner in which we make our games along the way. In 2025, this saw the biggest change to our development strategy yet, where new content rose to the forefront while feature work was allowed the time necessary to cook behind the scenes.
Sorry, Jared, to pause you right there, my friend. The one thing that stands out for me, and we kind of said this again last week, just how much content has gone in. Stormbreaker, Hathor, ASD, remote asteroid bases, the logistics centers, all of that stuff in a year has taken the game from very repetitive kind of combat missions and all that sort of stuff to there being a lot of content, admittedly based around a lot of FPS stuff, but they themselves said that at CitizenCon Direct, and there will be, so they say, a lot more ship-based combat coming with things like tactical fleet battles, and kind of move the focus, I guess, back onto the stars of the show, which are the ships. But they've put an awful lot of content in, and if we were to get a group together and go and do all of the content from start to finish, so run Hathor from start to finish, Stormbreaker start to finish, ASD start to finish, and so on and so on and so on, all the contested zones, all that good stuff, then yeah, that's a good solid day to do one of each. And I'm not sure of many more games where you go, hey, we're going to do one example of one thing added in a year, and it's going to take us a full day to do it. So that's kind of cool.
Where dedicated strike teams were formed to deal with the biggest issues at hand, and the patch cadence changed from once every quarter to once every month. It was an exciting year, and now into 2026, we continue our yearly evolution as we head into the upcoming Alpha 4.6. Now, instead of a patch every month or every quarter, this year we'll introduce a new bi-monthly patch cadence, which is one every 2 months for those of you who appreciate homonyms. No. That means that you're going to see big releases like 4.6, 4.7, 4.8 and the like in January, March, and May, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. And
this was probably the most interesting bit in this video for me. Because, for example, I'm just going to get rid of that light because that really is bright. There we go. There we go. We're doing a little better, maybe. Still quite whited out, but it's fine. I was expecting, as we saw in the stream last week, I was expecting there to be a month patch. A patch every month, right? Every month, new content, updates, and all that sort of stuff. And I predicted that that was going to happen at least up to the release of Squadron 42. The question is, what I'm going to post as a poll right now. If they are slowing down the pace of patches, sorry, Jared, I've paused you at a really bad time there, my friend. Does this mean, if you're slowing down the patches, does this mean that they now know that Squadron is not going to come this year? Or is this allowing them more time to cook each patch so that they make more progress towards where they want the game to be when Squadron 42 releases? What do you think? Hey, Soda, good to see you, my friend. More time to cook, says Julio. Because when I first heard that, I was like, oh no, does this mean that there is a delay if they've slowed things down? But of course, it could just be a case of more time to cook. Let them cook. I'm certainly not trying to stop them from cooking. I just, the question is, they've obviously gone to the stability of 1 month. But yeah. In my opinion, Sistuna, they're not slowing down the pace of patches. There will be more coming into the game this year. It's just that they don't need a new patch to put it in. Yeah, so I mean, he's going to talk about that now. So maybe we'll do that, and I'll give time for a couple more people to respond.
Between those patches, we're going to try a new initiative that'll still deliver smaller chunks of in-game content to keep things interesting, like the recent pricing surge on commodities from last week. And in the future, new mission contracts, new loot, and even new spaceships, and all without the need for a big, mega, full patch release. It's an exciting experiment, and one that we're eager to undertake as we continue our journey to 1.0 with a year of patches aiming to deliver more feature improvements like inventory rework, crafting, which, if everything works out, should be in tech preview soon or by the time this airs, instancing, Genesis planets, and more, alongside the content that we showed at CitizenCon Direct, like Rock Cracker, Tactical Strike Groups, and Municipal Works. So, with all that,
that is a crazy level of content for a second year, right? So he's talking instancing the Municipal Works. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I reckon Siege of Origin will be their first testbed for instancing. Right? Because it's standalone, it only runs for a certain amount of time. It's not affecting a core area, right? It's just some random location in Stanton, on Origin, on Crusader rather, right? So I wouldn't mind betting that might be their first testbed. I mean, they might do smaller, right? Because they might aim for smaller groups. But, that would be in my head, the way this would work is it would be easier for them to test on Siege of Origin and then go into something that's more substantive and permanent, like the Municipal Works and the stuff that's happening at Levski and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, but that Tactical Strike Groups, that's the name that I was looking for. Rock Cracker. We've got crafting, inventory rework. There's so much coming. So I'm just going to hear that bit again.
Instancing, Genesis planets,
maybe
and more of patches aiming to deliver more feature improvements like inventory rework, crafting, which, if everything works out, should be in tech preview soon or by the time this airs.
Inventory
instancing,
crafting,
Genesis planets, and more, alongside the content that we showed at CitizenCon Direct, like Rock Cracker, Tactical Strike Groups, and Municipal Works. Yeah. So,
that's a huge amount of stuff, right? And so what? Patch every 2 months, every 6 months we're going to get a patch. So what we're talking about here, we're talking about inventory rework, crafting, instancing, which will be the municipal works, right? So it's the same thing. Tactical strike groups, and everything else. So it's we're almost up to whatever else he said as well. We're almost up to the point of one of those features almost per patch, right? Planet Tech V5, yeah, bonkers. CPO says, I think last year was a test to see if they could hit a fast cadence for when Squadron 42 releases. Imagine if Squadron 42 release, they start month-to-month patches as they shift to full Star Citizen. Yeah, so they've got so many ways they could go with this. They could go back to quarterly, they could stick to the bi-monthly, especially if they're finding out a way to do these little kind of additional content without a full patch. If they're able to do this, if they, let's say they can add instances, right? That they can just add this stuff without needing a full patch, that's kind of crazy. Just turn it on and off. That would be very, very cool. Okay, let's see what else.
With all that said, let's go ahead now and take a look at some of what Alpha 4.6 has in store for us. And not just with its intended release next week, but throughout this February and into March.
Uh-oh.
Up first, the local inhabitants of Levski are falling sick with a mysterious ailment called the People's Ailment, seemingly caused by the new strain of mold growing in the faulty air filters of Geisen Incorporated. Symptoms include coughing, chest pain, and fatigue. This mold is super resistant and forcing the free and independent people of Levski to reach out to the UEE for help. Now, it's up to contractors like you to race against the clock and save as many folks from fungal fatalities as possible. And, of course, pick up some rewards along the way, like this cool new medical-themed armor set, med gun, ship paints, and more.
Nice.
And in feature work, the first iterations of cockpit light amplification are also rolling out for select spacecraft.
That's very cool.
It's an exciting step forward in addressing one of the oldest struggles pilots have when flying or driving around the dark side of our planets and moons. And like most new features in Star Citizen, this will continue to evolve, improve, and expand to additional vehicles in subsequent patches. And look at all the different colors. And speaking of the oldest struggles, the Aurora, classic ship from RSI, heart of our original crowdfunding campaign and most owned vehicle in the verse, is finally getting its gold standard pass in Alpha 4.6, bringing it to feature and function parity with today's latest and greatest for those pilots who enjoy flying a true Star Citizen classic. And alongside this, we're finally delivering many of those outstanding campaign paints to go with it, like the pirate paint.
This is going to make people happy.
The Operation Pitchfork paint, the South by Southwest 2015 paint, the Electro Hull paints, and more. For 4.6, these will be delivered exclusively to those OG backers who earned them by supporting the original campaign, but may become available in limited supply later this year if there's enough interest. I suspect you can let us know on Spectrum, Reddit, and social. And in additional content stuffs, those cool holographic skull helmets we came up with so long ago are finally being delivered to our development subscribers.
That's very cool.
I'm excited because I've been wanting to recreate that, that Skeletor meme on social with it since we first unveiled it. There should be memes here, unless we couldn't think of any. There's also offerings from everyone's favorite band who, look.
Just, that it's going to hit the fan anytime we talk about Wicklow. So that's fun. But yeah. Sly says, I have a question. At the end, Jared mentions patches as seasons. Could this refer to the future of season passes? Or am I reading into it too much? Are we past that point yet, Sly? Because I don't think I've had that. So We'll go through the video. I'll pause on that bit if we catch it. If not, we'll talk about it at the end. But we'll talk about that anyway.
Look, it's the only banner you know.
So is
technically who has these nifty new armor and weapon variants
That's
available
very cool.
as well.
Like that armor a lot.
And the debut of the upcoming RSI Hermes, which you'll see fully and learn more about next week.
RSI Hermes, we'll talk about that in a bit. But I'm low-key quite excited.
But as we said at the top of the show, 4.6 doesn't stop when it releases next week. That's because about 2 weeks after that, we'll see the unlocking of new faction-based introductory and advanced mining and salvage missions to better guide new players through the 2 popular professions, as well as provide additional opportunities.
Better guide players through the professions. We don't need guiding, we've all done it. Right? Or we know where to get help. This is new player gearing. This is gearing for people who've not sat through what we've sat through with this game. That is absolutely what is going on here.
To existing players.
Lol.
There's our annual Coremore event that encourages folks to spend their lives in the verse with someone special, and it arrives with a host of goodies to acquire. Red Festival returns with its super cool red and gold paints, as well as new decal or not variants for those who prefer a cleaner look to your spacecraft paints.
I like the decal or not.
Another limited time change to vendors like the recent pricing surge, but this time discounting vehicles sold through in-game shops.
Who's that spaceship mine?
And finally,
so we know what this is, don't we?
another new ship with a familiar silhouette makes its debut weeks later in the 4.6 era.
That looks an awful lot like a salvage base raft.
So what's it called and what's it do? Well,
Raft.
I'm
Mold.
not going to
You know
tell
what I
you,
mean.
because I'm not sure we're getting away with that whole what's that spaceship month thing. So come back in a few weeks to find out. Ultimately, 4.6 is the start of a new season of Star Citizen content that will continue to expand the story and gameplay of Nyx, the features and capabilities of the universe itself, and the continuing development of the project as a whole.
That's the bit you're talking about, Sly, right? A new season of game development or Star Citizen gameplay development. Yeah, I don't think that's the idea of season passes at all. I just don't think nothing kind of that they're doing at the moment makes me think that they're going to lock stuff away in seasons, because nothing of their model at the moment lends itself to that, right? The idea of loot, even subscriber stuff, finds its way into loot boxes. I picked up the flight helmet that was released for the Paladin at in the the Citizen Cod Direct game package. I picked that out of a loot container in ASD last week. So already something that people have paid for is in game as loot, and they've always said that that's going to happen. But I'm not entirely sure how they're going to lock content. So yeah, I wouldn't sweat it. I think possibly that is reading too much into it. I don't see that they're going to do that, and that's potentially a really hard thing to do when they're not on a subscriber model anyway. I know there are plenty of subscriber games that do season passes, but I just don't think it's a case of everything that they do, you buy something that's attributed to your account. Looking at things like item recovery, when that comes in, you're finally able to loot people's exclusive items off them if they're caught and killed carrying it. I think season passes, they know season passes wouldn't be particularly effective, because people will it'll all hit the market, people will loot it, people will sell it and hand it off and put it down, and someone else will pick it up and that sort of stuff. So I don't think it's going to go that way. I don't think there's need to worry just yet. Sodarstorm says Squadron 42 is most certainly coming out this year, and they're prepping that Star Citizen for an influx of new players. Agree with the second bit. Not so sure about the first bit. I'm hoping that it will, and I said last week that it will. But it's Star Citizen. But it's CIG. It's Squadron 42 and it's CIG. I'll believe it when we've got a date, an actual date. But yeah, Salvagey says, but I'm not seeing a mole shape there. Okay, I kind of saw. Looks smaller than the mole, maybe SRV based. Yeah, in terms of the rear thrusters and stuff, that to me screams mole. But, you know, maybe I'm wrong. But there we go.
And as far as shows like this are concerned, well, I'm happy to report that we're going back to weekly from now on. So whether that's ISC, SEL, BTS, or whatever a particular episode is called, we'll be back with something to share each and every week that we can. I've missed you. And one of you sent me a giant wooden hammer, which kind of feels like a threat. But I'm going to try my best. See you next week.
So yeah, so that's where we are with Inside Star Citizen Alpha 4.6 patch report. Yeah, and exciting stuff, right? That's definitely, it's more progress. What I found really interesting about last year was the secondary storyline, the regen crisis, actually ended up being more an exciting storyline than the fight for Pyro stuff. The fight for Pyro was just, it was, here are missions that you do normally, but there's a reason to do them now, and, you know, we'll give you some rewards for it. Whereas between that and ASD, for example, between that and Stormbreaker, that I will take those things every day of the week. So they are much better in my opinion. Chief Iron Officer says, until it's out, Squadron 42 release date is uncertain. CIG has a long track record of missing release windows. I hope Squadron 42 releases this year, but not holding my breath. Well, I mean, there's two things that I would say, not necessarily in response to that, but I would say about release windows is they've gotten much better. So there was alright, you could say that the Pyro release was a little bit kind of like sneaky because we had Pyro and then we didn't have Pyro because we had two branches running at the same time. So I get that. But we had a stripped down version of Nyx this year with no problem. We got an almost monthly release of this year, or last year, sorry, with very little issue. So it's quite interesting to see that they have now started to make that sort of leap into releasing more content more regularly, and that's really quite exciting, right? That's really quite cool. So does that mean that they'll release a game? Does that mean that that's changed? Probably, you know, I don't think you can read that far into it. But they are getting better. And we can see, you know, 4.6 last week went to all waves PTU. So they're definitely making progress and that they're getting stuff out. There is a conversation to be had about, is that useful? Is that good? You know, are they sacrificing quality for speed? But you know, if they don't do that, then people whinge about, well, you know, we're always waiting for stuff, and you know, there's always the excuse that they're trying to put quality in, and I just don't think they can win. I think they're going to be, you know, not committal on that thing. I'm still not going to be convinced if we have an official date. Fair enough, Luna. That's fair enough. I'm hoping that we will, but I get where you're going with that. So yeah, that's where we are with all that sort of stuff. Not much else in terms of news just yet. However, things like the Railen coming to development, that's exciting. Hopefully they've got a way ahead with those containers at the back. That'll be useful to see. And then there's the Hermes. Now, there was a sneak peek image from a while ago. I'm just going to go see. I'm going to go see if I've got it. Let's see if I can find it. I'm not sure if I've got it or not. I guess not. I guess I don't have it. But basically, there was a sneak peek of the Hermes that, or what we think is the Hermes, which is definitely the inside of the Apollo with what looks to be a Grey Cat tractor beam running through the middle of it. So, I'll see if I can find it. I'll show you what I mean. I'll show you what I mean. For those that haven't seen it, certainly seems to be the Apollo. The spaces seems to be open, or seem to be opened out a little bit more than you would normally expect, which is, good news. So, in effect, what you would do is take the Apollo, the triage, or the medevac, and remove those rooms on the side and just have that as one large open space. And maybe that's an entire deck that can drop down. Maybe it opens up a different way. There are ways that they could do that. But I'm just gonna hop in and show you that, guys, now. That to you guys now. Let's have a look. Transition. There we go. So there's the sneak peek. Okay, this was I think the first sneak peek of this year on their Facebook page, the Star Citizen Group Facebook page, as in CIG's official, and you can see there that this is very, very hard. This is very Apollo-esque. Open space either side. So yeah. Yeah, I guess, so Luna says, you already know my opinion on a non-medical ship based on the Apollo. I just wanted something cool for the medical players. Yeah, so Luna and I are very much the same mind here, which is medical ships like the Apollo, for example. It would have been really cool if that silhouette was just medical and that there was no other thing based on that hull. CIG obviously don't agree, and it looks like it's going to be a cargo variant. Hermes the name certainly seems to lend to that, and then this stuff as well. So what looks to be a tractor beam on rails going in and out of the ship. Although it still looks quite closed down side by side, we don't quite know where this is within the ship, whether we're looking forward, whether we're looking aft here. But there we go. Chief Paranoid Officer says, considering how low the bar was on releases, it's not hard to get better. Just learn to wait and see with CIG. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, they've not done to say they've improved. Yeah, when you reach rock bottom, the only way is up, right? So yeah, I get where you're going with that. I get that 100%. So yeah, there's that. Sterling says, I agree as well. It would have been nice if they kept the Apollo to medical or search and rescue, and maybe even fire rescue only. Yeah, that. Chief Paranoid says, got to agree with that. I just hope that no medical ship will be nice enough for me, as I still have a triage. Yeah, so I've still got the medevac. I still have the Apollo medevac, and I'm kind of holding on to it to see if we end up getting drones later on, because for me it was that ability to go into an area with people who've ejected or people who are downed, fire out the drones, take your evasive maneuvers, deal with what you need to deal with, and then get people back on board using the drones. Now that that's changed, I don't really see much of a difference between the triage and the medevac, other than a little bit of armor and a couple of weapons, which, if you're taking the medevac into combat to do that, you're doing it wrong, right? If you're going to take a two-person ship into combat, there are better ships, right? So I'm not sure where I'm going with that. As for the Hermes, we don't really have any details as to what it's going to be able to carry. My feeling is that if it has a cargo value comparable to or better than the Taurus, I might well end up upgrading. So we'll see. And it doesn't actually need that much on it to be able to beat the Taurus. Was it 176, something like that? So yeah. Sol says, just wish they'd put the drones back in for the Apollo for the Hermes. It could have been good helping with cargo. Yeah, I mean, obviously it was only going to be the medevac, I think, that got the drones, but yeah. I've been rooting for the RSI Prometheus, a fire truck tanker rescue Apollo. That might work. I have a Warbond CCU for medevac. Nice. Yeah, I think that's the same. So it's part of a CCU chain. And I've not opened the chain yet. I think it's still built off my Taurus. So, there we go. CIG should rework the 400i and upgrade it with medical and crafting bay, says Captain Mandalero. Yeah, I mean, the danger is that what do I want to say? I don't know. I've kind of 404'd on that one. I'm not sure. I guess the question is, just from so taking all the gameplay out of it, why would CIG rework something that people already own and not just do a new one? You know? I don't know why they wouldn't just. I guess my first problem is where does the medical compartment go? It'd have to go where the hangar was, right? So a smaller hangar, or sorry, small not hangar, cargo area. So a smaller lift in the cargo area up to immediately the medical, because I don't know how you get anyone from that deck because the elevator's not big enough. So yeah, not sure. Yeah, the 500i. I don't know. We'll see. Since the components have been reduced in size and number, there's now enough space for a medical bay and crafting bay. Yeah, I think there's a lot of ships that could say that they've got room for a medical bay and crafting bay. And or crafting bay, right? Yeah, every military ship's going to go, well, they can make their own components when they take damage. And we've already had the argument. There's already been an argument about the Perseus having medical facilities and all that sort of stuff. There's a ship from a manufacturer that's not had a ship in a while, so 400i generalist is possible. Imagine putting the crafting and medical bed in the cargo area. Yeah, that's what I mean in terms of getting the casualty onto the ship. If you've got an incapacitated casualty, it'd need to be on the lower deck, or they just put a larger elevator in. But I'm not sure how they do that, because then you're now redesigning the top deck. So yeah. So yeah, I think it's what a lot of people will be tempted to do is take their favorite chassis and then talk about how you could add more functionality to it, and clearly CIG's intention is not to have every ship having every capability. Very self-evidently from their catalogue of ships. So people will choose their insert favorite hull here, and then this is how it could fit it. And I think maybe if people want that, they need to step away from justifying it in terms of space and justify it in terms of the ship's main role, but also the also how it sits in relation to other ships. Is there a ship that if you gave the ship that you want the stuff that you want, are you now completely invalidating another ship of a similar type? Because if you are, clearly CIG don't want that. So yeah, that's where I would go. A lot of the Origin ships, I think, could be medical in the interior. I mean, if you look at the crew quarters of the 890 jump, they look very medical. In fact, they are very medical. But even if you took the medical facilities out of it, it still looks very medical in that area. It's only when you get to the kind of guest areas that it indicates that it's another type of ship. But yeah, because the 600, there's elements of the 600 that could certainly lend itself to being medical as well. But then, then an entire line effectively becomes medical, as in a manufacturer's series of small, medium, large, or certainly medium, large. So yeah, it'd make more sense if they made medical versions in addition to ships that would need a big overhaul already. I like the idea of medical ships having a distinctive silhouette. I'm going to get it with Drake. I understand with Drake. The Terrapin always lent itself to a medical thing, just because there's no point in having a main Terrapin at the moment. It just doesn't do anything versus any other ship. Although, I suppose you could make the same argument about that I've made about the 400i. But I like the idea of things like, the medical ships having that distinctive silhouette. Galaxy, not so much. Modular, you can do other things with it. And even to an extent, the Endeavour, although the one thing the Endeavour clearly isn't, is a frontline military ship. You are not going to convince me it's a frontline carrier just because it can equip a hangar bay. And just because you can respawn on it does not make it a frontline FPS ship. I will die on this hill. Just so you know. So there we go. Yeah. It would make more sense if they made medical versions in addition to ships. Possibly. There we go. For me, the unique silhouette of the Apollo was one of the things I liked. I liked it had no weapons. I would have given it no weapons and just PDCs for defense. Yeah, I mean, even the mining ships, not particularly effective, but even things like the Prospector's got some guns. But yes, the idea that they should be a silhouette where, very much like it was in older conflicts, is you never targeted the medical personnel on the other side. Because you know that they were just as likely to help your guys as they were to help everyone else's. It's never going to come to this, but it would be cool if, there was something similar in Star Citizen. But it's down to people's choices, and people will shoot whatever they want to shoot. So you can't enforce it, but it would be cool if people kind of went down that route, right? So there. Yeah, so there's that. So, ooh. I wasn't kind of expecting to do that just yet. Sorry, my bad. I'm clicking on random things, and you can't see any of it because I'm on this screen. But yeah, I didn't mean to click that. Oops. But it's fine. We're all good. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment with the news that's come out this week. Obviously, crafting, there seems to be a little bit of a delay. Now, with crafting, I would expect there to be a couple of other things added. And one of those is the ability to begin to refine different qualities of materials. Now, Tier 0, that may well just be as much as whatever you refine now will have quality grades on it. I'm not suggesting for a second that there will be refining gameplay added. I think that's still a way down the line. But yeah. So, we'll see. But obviously there needs to be quality materials from somewhere. And different qualities if they've already talked about, as you saw in the monthly report, they talked about the idea of, there being parts of the UI that allow you to change where the quality materials go to change the item's final stats. So clearly that they're intending to do that as well. We're expecting, of course, refined materials to go in and show that. I don't know if anyone in here was able to test any of Okati and actually able to or want to talk about it, but yeah. Rest assured that when it comes to tech preview, if we get our hands on it, then I'll go and give it a go, and we'll maybe look at it on stream, or video, or even both if you're lucky. So there. But yes. So a little bit on that then. YouTube channel that is not putting out videos at the moment, which I'm talking about me, of course, which is only just putting out a stream every week. Things have been exceptionally busy for me, and things are about to get busy in a very different way. But I'm hoping slowly to return to content. The stuff that it requires a disproportionate amount of editing, things like Ready for Inspection, the Perseus, the Hammerhead, and the Polaris, these things are going to take time, and they're not going to come anytime soon. They're going to be a little while. There's so much work that goes into them that they are too big a thing to bite off at the minute. I have some work done on the Perseus one already. What I've shown to people in Discord, link in the description below, has got some very positive reviews. Looks really good, I'm told. Lots of extra effects, stuff that I've not done in videos before. So this is, at the risk of sounding like CIG, it'll be ready when it's ready and not before. I will release it when I'm happy with it. As for the other stuff, it's going to start coming back in. There's a couple of videos that I want to make, things that I've kind of looked at starting scripting and all that sort of stuff. It's just going to have to be around all the other stuff that I'm doing, and what I really don't want to do is break myself trying to get that done. Very busy period at work, very busy period in my personal life. So this at the moment, I'll continue doing this with you guys and still do the whole live streams and get videos out where I can. They might not be huge kind of lots of video editing. It may be very like the question format that I did before that seemed to go really well. We'll see. But we will get back to a reasonable content release schedule. It's just going to take a little bit of time. And I thank you guys for kind of still coming here and still doing this, despite the fact there hasn't been a bit of video in a couple of months now. So thank you for that. Bear with me. We'll get there, and we will come back stronger than ever. So thank you guys. We will get there eventually. Yeah. Trying to think because it has been a bit of a drought. I've not gone and done any of the new economy stuff that they've done, where you go and get these. What is it, Atlassium or whatever it is, Atlas something or other, these new materials, and go get the other stuff. I've not bothered. It's very similar to gameplay that I've had before, we've all had before, which is go get these materials, and oh, by the way, you might be attacked at the same time. It feels very, very samey. It's stuff that I'm not really kind of enjoying massively. The one thing I might do at some point on stream, and maybe we can do this together, is we can go and do the logistics centers. I had intended to do that as my first stream back. I just wasn't at a point actually where I ended up being able to do that. So maybe we'll do that at some point. Maybe we'll get together and go and do the whole Vandal mission, because there's a lot in that to recommend it as a mission set. It's very, very cool. And actually, apart from the freight elevators trying to get the loot out of there, I found it to run fairly reliably on the couple of times that we've done it. So maybe, just maybe, depending on what happens this week, we'll look at that at the end of next week. I may well. There's going to be a behind the ships this week about the Hermes. Maybe we'll go live as that happens, or maybe we'll go live just after that happens, and I'll put a notification up on the channel, and we can have a chat about that, and see where we go. Because yeah, like I said, I'm very much interested in the Hermes and where it goes. Might end up being a replacement for the Taurus. The Taurus, I find at the moment, is just a victim of being an old ship. During all of the transportation missions that we've done last year, the problem that I had was trying to fill it up completely. So it can go up like 3 or 4 high, but when you come to fill the last couple of rows, the back of the ship is in such a place that you can't actually get that stuff up there, and I end up loading it in a really weird way, putting it in the top and then dropping it down from above, which is not particularly useful at all. But there we go. That's it. So if the Hermes is much more user friendly, I might go to that. I still have a CCU chain that goes up through a Taurus, so if I really don't like it, I'll continue on with the Taurus to something else, and then I'll use the Hermes to go from there. So yeah, Badges, did you see the Polaris interior improvements? It even has basketball like the Perseus now. Yes, I know there's a couple of people that are very, very happy with that. So I think it's got the pool table now, right, in the mess hall, and there's the basketball court and stuff like that. Overdue. Polaris needed it, so that's good news. I'm hoping the Hermes made me second guess my raft, says Chief Paranoid Officer. Yeah, so the Hermes, I think. I'm going to rewind that statement. The raft really showed its strength about being able to load stuff externally and just do that very, very quickly. That really made the raft kind of a workhorse. We saw that anytime you went to any of the pyro Stanton delivery mission stuff, all that, I forget what it's called now, but all that, the delivery things, the one ship you saw there more than anything else was the raft. So the raft has really got some strength behind it in terms of its utility. But who knows what the Hermes might bring? And it's always nice to have choices. It's always nice to be, I could go for this because, and I could go for that because. It's a really nice problem to have, is having choice. The worst thing is like, hey, there's just nothing that I want to touch. I've not even had to think about it. I'm going to stick with this. Nothing else comes close. And there's no point in challenging it because no argument really fits. There's that. The Hermes is likely more user-friendly since newer ships are better than the old ships. Yeah, there is that, but it's just a case of, I think, I like the look of them. I like the forward cabin, all that sort of stuff. I don't have a problem with any of that. It feels more homely, potentially, than the Connie does. It depends what they do to the Connie, but like I said, I can always go back to that. So yeah, we'll see, and that's a conversation we can have when we have a look at the Hermes. I don't think it's going to be anything majorly groundbreaking. Maybe the bottom comes down, although having said that, you probably wouldn't fit a 32 SU container under it. So maybe there's an interesting way of getting the cargo in and out. Don't know. There's going to be, if the cargo comes out of the Hermes the same way people use the ramp on the medevac and the triage, there are going to be a lot of jokes and a lot of silly sound effects when a 32 SCU container comes out of the Hermes. You know what I'm talking about. Don't pretend that you don't. I see you. So there we go. Midgard says need 264 plus SCU for the Hermes. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to be quite that high, but like I say, it's been a while since I've been in it, so I can even tell you how long a 32 SCU container is next to it, and kind of how much it takes up. I honestly can't remember. So we'll see. And this is the nice thing about it, is we'll just see what comes out and whether or not it works. For the price point, maybe it ends up coming out cheaper in the same way that the Taurus is the cheapest of the Connie line. Maybe it's the cheaper of the medical ships. I mean, you've got that Cuddy Black cheaper than Cuddy Red. Don't know. Although, which one's cheaper? Terrapin or Terrapin Medic? Someone remind me. I don't remember. So yeah, I can't remember. The same price, were they? Yeah. So maybe not. Maybe they won't. Maybe they won't do it. Maybe they'll be worried about. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Yeah. So maybe the cargo, but they're both specialized, right? Whereas there is no cargo version of a Terrapin. Cuddy Red versus Cuddy Black. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just because they're old and they weren't going to move the Cuddy Black pricing because it's so popular. It would just cause a massive, kind of blowback from the community. So yeah, we'll see. 432 SCU boxes, says Edison. Yeah, possibly. I guess we'll I guess we'll find out next week. Is it normally Wednesday they put it out? The thing is that they said they change and we get something every week. Does that mean a minimum of one thing, or it'll only be one thing? Like, CIG, communicate clearly with us so we can kind of anticipate these things. But that's where we are with that. So I'll be happy running logistics in a Hermes, says Luna. Yeah, I mean, interesting. Is that a little bit of a backpedal, Luna, from the I don't want it to be anything other than medical? Is that a little bit of backpedal? Is that what's just gone on there? Not to call you out on stream, but I am kind of calling you out on stream. I think that might be a backpedal. Sorry, mate. I know I'm being mean. I see 120 SCU. It puts it slightly above an MSR. Issue is Zeus CL holds 128 SCU, so 128 SCU. It conflicts with the Zeus and the Taurus. See, yeah, because what's the Zeus? 176. Sorry, what's the Taurus? 176, something along those lines. So yeah, it means every week we get, yeah. But what I'm saying is, does it mean that there's only one thing a week, or does it mean a minimum of one thing a week? I.e., are we going to get an Inside Star Citizen and a Behind the Ships next week? Are we going to get a Star Citizen live and a Behind the Ships next week? Like, what's going on? Do you think CIG will ever put out a snowplow vehicle? No, I don't. No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think they're going to get to the point where they're. I mean, maybe they will, but maybe Star Weather, Genesis, whatever it is, actually has snow, land, and kind of pile up. Like, you know, a mount, you know, end up in drifts and stuff. But nope. I can't imagine anything worse. Just, you know, I spend enough time on my backside walking around the game just from people's flying and stuff. I don't need to be walking down and just slip on a patch of black ice. Like, that's a step too far. No, not so much. I'll go snowplow. Yeah, just. Guys, you know they said they take it to realism and take it back to fun. We've forgotten to take it back to fun. Snowplow, realism, fun, not so much. Now someone's going to tell me that snowplowing is fun, and I'm not going to believe you. Our great grandkids will be playing the streets of their player cities. I mean, I applaud your optimism that it's only great grandkids, not great grandkids. But yes, Rufus, you're entirely correct. Hello, user. Fall on Ice, real medical gameplay. That. Absolutely, yeah. Nothing better than, you know, you're all geared up, you're looking awesome, you've got all your guns out, you're coming out the ramp of the Valkyrie or the Asgard or whatever, and then you slide down the ramp and end up with a tier 3 leg because the ramp's icy. That's just rubbish. Don't need to be doing that. No, and that statement, Edison, is precisely why we shouldn't have snowplows. That statement, just that statement, just stop it. So there we go. So there we are. I'm going to pop some music on in the background. I'm not going to lie. It's so there's a bit of a weird one. I've always tried to build the channel on transparency. There's stuff going on with. Oh, should we do that? Let's do this. Right. There's stuff going on. Some stuff that I don't want to talk about just yet because it's stuff that's in the works. And I'm not quite ready to talk about it, but it's very exciting and it's basically eaten my entire weekend. That's cool, right? However, I got told by someone, well, indirectly told by someone that me using keyboard and mouse to fly in this game makes me a bit of a peasant and is suboptimal. And therefore, there has been some progress on me becoming hands-on stick and stick. Except, now I didn't do this, before anyone asks, I'm busy saving for a house. I'm too poor, comparatively, to do crap like this, but this still turned up anyway, so here we go. We're actually talking on hands-on stick and throttle and stick and control panel. 2 of those things turned up this week, and I'm really quite excited. So I'm hoping my background thing doesn't. I've got them here to talk about. I've been staring at them since the beginning of the stream and then completely forgot I was going to talk about them. So, this is from Purple. Okay. Now that is a solid bit of kit. This is one of their flight control panels. Okay, incredible bit of kit. It's even got the, do you really want to press this switches? So that's very cool. And then we've got the buttons across the top, which are RGB programmable. And what's really cool in the pack is there are stickers. So you can remove the cover, put the sticker underneath that's got the symbol on that you want to use to remember, and then put it back on. So when it lights up, it actually shows you a picture that hopefully reminds you what the hell you programmed that button to do in the first place. Got a bunch of analog switches, which are one way or the other, but don't stay in that position. Got a couple of switches that do stay in that position, which is kind of exciting. Hopefully you're seeing that all right. There we go. Right, and then I've got two, like, they're almost like volume dials here. So they go away and no further. And then I've got a couple, I guess they're like, almost like, there we go, volume knobs. Yeah, no, do that, there we go. That just keeps spinning. So that's really exciting. Okay. How the hell, right? This is weighty as a very weighty thing. So that was one of the things that turned up. And then, right, and then I'm looking forward to doing this. So do you remember I said that there's things that I'm going to do, and they are, I'm not ready to talk about them yet. This is another one of them, because this is going to take ages to set up, because not only is it going to set up, these things are all going to need mounting. And at the moment, we are downstairs, for one reason or another, on my dining room table. And clearly, I am not mounting a bunch of flight sticks to my dining room table. That's not going to happen. Throttle. So, what's really cool about this thing is split throttle. I've got to try and get this in I'm using myself as a background so it doesn't keep disappearing. Hopefully. That way. I don't know. There we go. That's better. Right. So split throttle. Okay. There's that. Now a singular throttle with, as you can probably hear or see, indents, which you can move the indents. There's like a gear, landing gear lever there as well. Dial, button, and then you've got so many sticks with clicks that it's almost beggars belief. I have no idea how I'm going to fly using this. Like, not a single idea. I don't know how that's going to happen. I'm not going to call him out because I haven't asked him whether or not he's all right for me to name him. But thank you ever so much. You know who you are. Thank you. Sticks are arriving later on. We've got that stuff to do. So yeah, what was the... Yeah, that. Imagine all the bills you could put the controls for the dining room table. I'm going to need a bigger desk. This is what's coming out of this, is I need a bigger desk. I got 2 flight sticks coming. They're going to come a bit later, but there we go. I have 3 Connies because I love that design too. I'm just missing a Taurus, so Hermes will bridge the gap. Okay, sorry, so that's we'll come to that in a second. But imagine all the beers. Yep. Check out the VKB Sim Steg Space Throttle System. I mean, so I'm going to learn on this. So I don't fly decoupled. I fly coupled. I know, filth. I get it. Single. And everything's keyboard, mouse, and very, very basic. I'm going to go literally off the deep end. So I'm going to go to full extent. I'm going to have the throttle and both sticks and everything else to be able to, you know, have all the buttons and everything else in front of me. There's Razer Tartarus controller upstairs. There's a whole bunch of things that I'm going to use to start really kind of expanding my gameplay. And then what we're going to do from that is a couple of things. There'll be a video of the build. This will hopefully be after I'm no longer in this property, but we'll see. As anyone that's ever moved properties knows, there's a lot that goes into that sort of stuff. In the meantime, all the crashes, all the times I slam into stuff, forget that I'm in decoupled, scream like a 5-year-old girl, die horribly, explode into someone else's ship, kill every passenger on board, all the good stuff that comes from being a pilot of Star Citizen, relearning how to fly, you will get to watch all of it, which is kind of cool. So yeah, and everything that I learned along the way, I think for these sorts of things, right? What's beautiful about this is that this is this is stuff that I would not normally do for myself. Certainly not at this stage, right? In terms of what's going on in life elsewhere, throwing this amount of money at this kit is not something I could do for myself at this stage, and be able to justify and live with myself, right? So it gives me a very honest. So if you're sat there going, I don't know if I'm going to do a sim pit setup, I don't know if I can do that, I can tell you from someone who's gone, hey, this wasn't a gradual thing. I went from mouse and keyboard, oh look, I play Star Citizen, to full on everything you can think of, all of that stuff all at once. I'm going to do all of that at once and then give you guys a very honest opinion of how that goes. And how I find it. And there are going to be people out there, if you are already a simpit aficionado, as some of you seems to be, certainly Luna Maria's husband seems to be one, all that sort of stuff, mapping, that seems to be fun. Rufus, I have bad dreams about mapping this lot. All that sort of stuff, they're going to sit there and tell me, you noob, rah, 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 rah. That's the whole point, right? Noobs about like simpits and going from mouse and keyboard to HOTAS or HOSAS, because of course I'm going to be able to try both and see what I like more of. All that sort of stuff, I'm going to be able to give like the whole overview for those that don't know. People who know all this stuff and are really, really good at it, they're not looking at your entry level stuff. They're looking at the crazy builds, like that nutter who built an entire A10 tank buster cockpit in his room upstairs for DCS. Like, that's that sort of stuff, and looking at how cool that is, right? In the same way that someone who's just started Star Citizen looks at all the big ships that are in the game, right? So this is going to be more about people who are starting, and no, the Varpal stuff, there's no sponsorship. It's not, no one's asking me to have a look at this stuff. This is purely my experience from noob to hopefully somewhat experienced simpit jockey. Maybe not. Maybe I just keep slamming it into stuff. Like, who knows? Who knows? Hey, Widget, good to see you, my friend. You've been using keyboard and mouse all this time? Yes, Julio. Yes, I have. And I'm unapologetic about that. Tough. It makes switching to FPS really, really easy, just saying. So, yeah. That's really, really cool. Sorry, Luna, I will come back to your Hermes currency in just a moment. I recommend doing a bit of both as you can adjust. So switch to HOTAS. I did keyboard and mouse, says Chief Paranoid Officer, and HOTAS until I got comfortable. You're saying HOTAS a lot. I'm assuming you mean switch between HOTAS and HOTAS. But yeah. So Widget, I've been showing off some new toys, mate. Some very, very cool Varpal new toys. Not sent to me via, I mean, obviously they came from Varpal, but Varpal, this is nothing to do with me having a channel and all that sort of stuff. I'm just showing off toys, which I am very, very lucky to have sent to me. So yeah, very, very cool. So River says, I flew HOTAS in Elite Dangerous, but do mouse and keyboard for 8 years in SC. I tried the HOTAS I had and it was not intuitive. Own a Thrustmaster HOSAS. But I haven't used it much at all because of the learning curve. Yeah, it's the learning curve that's frightening me, but I figure that go big or go home, right? And there's a couple of things that I've kind of done in gaming and all that sort of stuff that I think will help me drive through this and really make me want to give that a go, and kind of to figure that out. So what I'm thinking is I'm actually struggling to talk because I'm quite thirsty. So what I'm thinking is very, very briefly, for you guys, I might put up. I'm really sorry, you are going to hear the music for this. Oh no, we did all right. Woo! It took me to another. It took me to another page, so that's good. I'm going to show you, because we're about to talk about this. I'm going to show you the beginning of CitizenCon 2024 from my point of view, from the point of view of DGP who went there. I'm going to show you that stuff, and we'll see. What you guys, because we are going to come on to why I'm showing this. I promise it's not just me being silly, but we'll give that a go. I'm going to go get a drink very, very quickly. It'll probably be another cider, which is no bad thing, right? But we'll get that done. Ooh, that's good news. It's just going to go straight to my video. So that's a win. So while I'm away, you guys can be watching that. I'll come back and then we'll continue talking. Is that all right with everyone? I just don't want to leave you staring at my chair. Like, that's going to be the most boring thing going. Because I'm empty. There's almost nothing left in that, and I'm doing that on the way. So let's give that a go. Let's transition over. Let's give you some desktop audio. Make sure it's all working. Back in a moment. What better way to celebrate IE than a video about CitizenCon? I know, right? So, just arrived in Manchester. I'm here for CitizenCon, and yeah, I hate trains up. I just hate public spaces a lot.
Is this
Especially
really
on trains
weird
when people
reacting
feel like
to
they
myself?
need to eat crisps with their mouth open or have their phone call about someone's medical condition on loudspeaker to the rest of the carriage, which is really kind of off-putting. But all that aside, here I'm really excited to see what the next couple of days brings. Yeah, let's see where we go. We got there about, 45 minutes before everything opened, and yet there was a delay. There was obviously something wrong, because our line, because we got all our passes beforehand, but into the first hall, it had those incredible models of Port Olisar, the old style. It had the incredible model of the Retribution, and then the merchandise and the food areas, then into the main hall. Okay, so, huge delay it was about an hour. It possibly even more. Now, there's a reason I wanted to bring that up, right? If you know anything about me, I'm just seeing if I've got anything to hand. I've not, because I'm downstairs and I don't normally have this sort of stuff down here. It all stays upstairs. If you know anything about me, in terms of what I do outside of this, Star Delay exactly, I like building things like Warhammer and Bolt Action and all that sort of stuff. I'm massively into models. I'm also massively into limited edition stuff, right? I'm a bit of a whore for that sort of things. I'm like, oh, it's collector's edition, I need it. I'm really excited to see if we get like a collector's edition kind of Squadron 42 something. I'd be excited. The physical merch, I really, really like it. And over my shoulder, back on the shelf over there, I've got like the Cyberpunk collector's edition game book, like not the guide, it's like the making of, and it's like a thing. I've got like a lot of the Warhammer books and collector's editions. I got collector's edition Starfield with the watch. In fact, the watch has been charging up your. So if you played Starfield, you know that that's the watch you carry around with you. And it even has. There you go. So it's got all your readouts. Yeah. So I love that sort of stuff. It's absolutely that. Yeah, Captain. Don't know. Maybe they're out in the pub. I hope whatever they're doing, they're all right. So there we go. So that's all that. And the reason I bring this up is because something's happened. I've started to work with people who are doing exactly the same for the Star Citizen universe. So they have started their foray into bringing every ship in the game to life in front of your eyes. Okay? So, let's have a look. Let's see if I can find the right. Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's this one. There we go. So, this stuff is by Pigeon Spaceport. Okay, these models, the incredible models of Olisar, the model of the Retribution, these guys started out as a completely fan-based. They're an official company, but they created the Retribution and Port Olisar and a couple of other models to go to CitizenCon, to go to Bar Citizens, to go and show off the hobby to other people, right? And give, you know, no longer was it JPEG ships. All of a sudden, these models are in front of us. There's something tangible, which is really cool. I like this stuff. You know, even though, I started Warhammer gaming when I was 12, 13. Yes, there's computer games. Yes, Space Marine 2 is awesome. Loved Dawn of War, that was great. Play Rogue Trader, awesome. Loved the I forgot what the Warhammer one was, the hack and slash version, Vermintide. Love all that. Darktide, not so much. Don't know why, just didn't strike me. But even though there's the online stuff very immersive, you can't take the models away as far as I'm concerned. That very tactile, having something in front of you. And this is where Pigeon Spaceport come in. So Pigeon Spaceport build these, and they are now starting to build models in the verse. And they reached out to me to ask me if I wouldn't mind looking at one of their models. Okay, so their first production run model is going to be an RSI Scorpius. And that's going into production very, very shortly. In fact, there are pre-production models that are making their way to myself and a couple of other creators. And this is what you're looking at. So it's an RSI Scorpius model, injection molded, and it looks incredible. And this is from someone, I'm used to a lot of detail. I'm used to a lot of detail in my models. I like things that can be built in a number of different ways. And when they reached out, I wasn't sure. I went and had a look at the webpage, and that convinced me. And there was, the first thing that I saw was the line where our goal is to bring every ship in the game to life for people. And the idea that we can play the game and have our favourite ship, and all right, it might not be the Scorpius, but hey, give them a chance. They're working on it. To have our favourite ship in the room, to have something tangible, and more than that, to have it multi-posable, multi-position, change the weapon loadouts on it, is very, very cool. And that's what you're seeing here. So I'll zoom in a bit. Unfortunately, that didn't do particularly well. But what you're seeing here is the base model. You have interchangeable parts and a bit, and it comes painted. Magnets allow you to pose and position stuff on it. There are different weapon options. The turret can be on the top or on the bottom, and so on and so forth. It's very, very cool. And one of the touches that I really like and really speaks to me, that box, to have whatever it comes in have just as much thought put into it as everything else. This stuff really stands out to me. Okay, so what you can do with these, this is the combo pack, but there are three versions. You've got the standard paint, which is in the center, Avalanche on the left, and I think it's Stinger on the right. Okay, you can choose whichever one you want. Of course, there are combos and whatever else, but you can have it built in this sort of pose. You can have it built with the wings back. You can even have it with the landing gear and the ladder down from the cockpit, which is really, really cool. I think that's well worth looking. And anyone that pre-orders it before they actually go live will get an extra base like this at the bottom. So, if you are after the link, there is a pre-order bonus at the moment. At the moment, you get a discount and you don't pay shipping. And if you use code DGP at checkout, you'll get an extra 5% off. They asked me how much I wanted to give you guys as a discount from, I think they gave me 7. I said 5. Just for complete transparency. Okay, so you get 5% discount and I get a 2% kickback from them. So the link should be in the Discord below. Pigeon Spaceport, go to the channel. Doesn't need to be a specific link. Just use code DGP at checkout. You will get an extra discount on top of everything else, free shipping. This is coming from China, and as we've said before, these things not quite there yet. They're still in their pre-order window, but it will not be long until these things launch. And of course, when this lands on my desk, I will break all of the cameras out. I'll have a multi kind of point of view video, and I will open this and give you my honest take on Pigeon Spaceport's models. And you know me, but for those that haven't heard me say this before, I'm very careful when it comes to talking about other people's money. This is why I don't talk about buyer's guides for ships, and this is why when people ask me when should I upgrade or not upgrade, that sort of stuff, I will not do that. Okay. I don't say that sort of stuff. Here, of course, you can see this. You can decide whether or not you want it. But the beautiful thing, of course, Pigeon Spaceport don't care of course they care, but they have not put any conditions on me speaking. And if they had, I wouldn't have dealt with them. So, really, really good to be working with them. Can't wait for a Perseus model, obviously, but I'm really looking forward to. And as we said, this base, if you pre-order, you get this as a bonus. On top of free shipping, on top of their discount, and on top of the bonus for using DGP. So there we go. I think that's everything in that folder. So yeah, I'm really excited to be working with those guys. Go and take a look. I shall just see if I can find the link, and I'll pop it in chat for people if they want it. Obviously, guys, it's entirely up to you whether or not you get these. For some people, they'll be like, don't want it, or it's too expensive, or whatever. And of course, that's fine. But because for those that have watched before, I am so much into my Warhammer and tabletop models. I've shown stuff off in front of you, right? I've shown you guys models. I'm looking to see if I've got anything. I don't have anything to hand, but I'm very keen to show this stuff off. I love the tactile stuff, so maybe this is up your street, and if not, that's cool too. But there you go. Right, that's that. I just wanted to go back and talk about this. So I kind of called Luna out a little bit for backpedaling on the Hermes, and I just want to go back to what she said very briefly. So I'm just going to go. Where is it? Where's the bit that you said? There's the bit where you said that. Okay, so you said, my disappointment in the use of the Apollo's chassis remains. However, I love the design, the Voyager style design, so we'll happily use a cargo ship with a design to support the fleet. Fair enough, and I called you out unfairly. I get that. That makes sense. Sorry, mate. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, I've got to say the same, exactly like you. Disappointed it's not going to stay exclusively medical, but I think had it been a gunship, I might have thought differently about it. But it's not a gunship, so we're all good, and that's cool. You have 3 Connies because you love that design too. I'm just missing a Taurus, so a Hermes will bridge the gap. Absolutely, and I don't blame you for not going Taurus. I like it. It's one of those ships that at the moment it's in, like, if you look at my fleet diagram, it's in my forever fleet. You know, it's in the ships that I want to keep, which is kind of cool. However.com, you know, and this is the thing that I always say, and this is why, again, giving people recommendations on what to do with their ship and what to do with their money, like, just doesn't hold true for me at all, is because we're fickle, right? And it's all subjective. There are, like the Prowler, for example. Love it. Love the Prowler. Absolutely love it. I'm going to get it in game, because for me it's slightly more expensive than I'm willing to do. But if I had the money, if I was able to just throw that money at that and not worry about, you know, buying a house and stuff, I'd do it. And people were like, hey, you can get better dropships, and, you know, you can get the Prowler utility. It's the same thing, but it's cheaper. I have a Prowler utility too, but I love the Prowler, the gunship. I love the utility. I love both of them. And no one's going to convince me otherwise. No amount of, yeah, but components, yeah, but weapon size, yeah, but cross-section, yeah, but these ships do this better. I just want that ship, and there's nothing people can do to dissuade me from that. If 3 years down the line I go, I can always upgrade. And that's kind of I think the thing that's been most interesting to me about this sort of gameplay and the whole having ships and trying to decide whether something's right for you or not is that the Taurus for a long old time has been, this is the ship that I want. And it's also, right, there's a little bit of nostalgia that goes with this. The Connie Taurus, or not the Connie Taurus, it was actually the Andromeda. But the Connie Andromeda was that ship that I saw in game first that made me go, oh, I get that Star Citizen's different now. I get that this is a different type of game to other games. This is 100%. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, my bad. I really should mute that when I'm doing this. But it's one of those things that you just kind of look at it, and for me, it convinced me to play this game. It convinced me that I wanted to back. Seeing that in the persistent universe, all the way back in whatever it was, 2, 3, I don't remember. That was I need that. Was that button box Verpal says essential? Yes, it was, my friend. It was Verpal. So yeah. Not sure if it's been asked. Complete change of topic, but how's the ready for inspection vid coming along? So we did just talk about that. I'll go back over that in a second, and we'll have a chat. But I'm just going to go to this very quickly, just to show people kind of where I am. So let's do that one. So this is where we are at the minute. I finally now get to do this, which is kind of cool. So we can grab that, right? And we can delete selected. We can grab that and delete selected. Because I'm sure by now Grim has done he has done the thing. So, and then he's done the thing, and then I clicked the wrong one. So that went well. So we've got one of those, the Alpha Wolf, and we've got one of these. There we go. Okay. So that I'm going to discuss myself. One day I'm going to go back and have a look at what the original fleet looked like, because it's a lot smaller than this. I can guarantee it. But that's what my fleet looks like right now. And this here may end up changing, because although there's all the nostalgia and the I really want it and I love it and this is the ship that got me into the game, it's one of those things that, do I want to wait forever for my really only cargo ship in that group to get better and to get the rework, when there really is no kind of imperative for CIG to work on it right now? So there's that. But yeah, I want the Hermes to be a generalist ship with a medbed fabricator and at least 2 high 128 SCU cargo. I very much doubt it's going to get the first 2. I think you'll probably get the second. Oh, sorry, the third bit. I don't think it's going to be generalist. I don't think it's going to be medbed. I don't think it's going to be fabricator. I think the generalist ships, I think, are probably going to be based around solo crew. I'm guessing. I think that's the point of them. I don't know. I know Hermes is only 2, right? If it's the same as the medevac and the triage, but I don't know. Maybe we could be surprised. I don't feel like CIG are going to go that way with it. I don't know. I could be wrong. When you look at the sneak peek picture, it could be that, right? The rooms off the side, there could be a medical room, but it just, again, like if you could have one at the moment, the reason to have multiple med beds is reduced. I don't really see the reason, apart from respawning, and at some point they've got to give us a queue, right? Apart from respawning, I don't see the point of having multiple med beds So why would you take a triage or a medevac over the Hermes if it gets both medbed, lots of cargo, and a crafting bench? Doesn't that in effect invalidate the other two? I'm planning on getting the Taurus to complete my Connie collection someday. For now, the Hermes will be more modern, so it'll take priority. Yeah, absolutely. There are so many ships that I'll end up buying in game. For now, it's only the ones that really stand out to me, because I end up buying them, or it's because people, you know who you are, end up sending me them. I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining, but very little of that fleet am I actually responsible for. So, yeah, oops. But thanks, guys. I do appreciate it. Yeah, I'm just, I sound lucky, and sometimes I can sound quite nonchalant to think. I'm sorry, this is just a very English thing about really being really bad about accepting other people's generosity. I'm not good at it, and I'm not getting better. Put it that way. Despite my best intentions, I'm very blessed to have some very generous friends, and people who might even use the ship as leverage to get me to have a look at them for a video. You know who you are. But yes, so there we go. But I'm very, I'm very lucky with the fleet, and it's a fun collection. There's a lot in the hangar to get flying on. So yeah. There we go. That's that. Widget, as for the ready for inspection vid, as I mentioned earlier, lots going on at the minute. They are going to be a little while yet, just because there's an awful lot of work, and certainly for the next month, I'm going to be struggling to set aside a significant chunk of time enough to be able to do that. The good news is there is content coming. Just bear with me. I will get there in the end, I promise. I've been scripting stuff as far back as Christmas, stuff that isn't kind of reliant on the news and being released instantly. It's stuff that can wait, and still will still have watchability 6 months down the line, because it talks about topics that more than just what's in the latest newsletter. So bear with us. The ready for inspection stuff, I want that to slap. I want that to be very high visual quality. I want that to be very high production quality. And basically, I want that to be the hallmark of this channel. So, understandably, I'm taking my time. Hopefully. You could swap out the Taurus for the Galaxy. I could, and interestingly, on the other side of this diagram, there are the CCU chains, and there is a Galaxy CCU in there somewhere. Yeah, I got the Valk to Galaxy CCU. So that's what that's saying. I don't own these ships. This is saying that I have a Freelancer to Cutty Red to Vulture to Connie Taurus to Vulcan CCU chain. So I own those CCUs. And one of the ones I picked up was when that was £5 War Bond. I got that. So I'm sat on all of these, waiting, ready to go. I think I got these I think these are now War Bonds, so giftable, brackets sellable, because I might end up doing that. So yeah. Yeah, we're not talking about that, Edison. I don't want to talk about that. Why? Why would you talk about that? But yes, so the ships I own, CCU chains. Yeah, and that's the chain there. So I've got the Spirit here, so that sits in that chain. I don't own that, but obviously, I could potentially take the Taurus up to the Vulcan, and the stepping off points here, as I'm really interested in seeing what the Vulcan plays like. I think that might be something that not a lot of people get involved in, so obviously fewer players in it makes it far more popular and far more attractive for people to employ you as a player. That'd be really cool. This one here, this chain is now effectively kind of, there is no end point to it, because I don't know if I want the medevac. I'm going to sit on it. I'm not going to do anything with it, but I'm going to sit on it and see what happens, what releases above those price points, whether or not I can get myself up there, that sort of stuff, and anything else that I might want. But at the moment, I don't know what else is coming either that I might want to have a stab at. We did put some stuff up with things like ships like the Expanse. I might want to try when that comes out. I think that might be quite good fun, but we'll see. I have a Crusader ship. Do you know what? Bizarrely, I actually really enjoy the Intrepid. Sorry, the Intrepid and the Spirit. Spirit became a bit of a daily driver for a while, and then the Perseus arrived, and then there is no such thing as a daily driver apart from the Perseus. But yeah, the Intrepid, actually, I was quite impressed with it. Sandgroper, hello, but I'm ashamed to say I currently only cut the steel. It's a stopping point in the chain. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. The cutlass steel's a running joke back from the Info Runners days, isn't it? So yeah, it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, so I don't know where else I would go. I'm I'm interested to see where the battle cruiser lands. Not because I want to buy one. I just want to see how much that thing costs. But yeah, there's that. So yeah, a couple of things coming. So we've got the Simpit video that's going to be coming, and having a look at that. We've got the Pigeon Spaceport RSI Scorpius model that's coming. There are a couple of videos looking towards this year, and I will be doing a little bit more Squadron 42 content as well, looking towards that. Because, of course, that's coming this year, and I think it's important. Might do sort of a podcast episode and talk about what we think the connection will be between Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. That was the guy who comes in every so often into Galactic Tea House. I'll have a chat with him. So yeah, we'll have, let's see. Captain Mandalera says, I've got 19 ships currently. My flagship is the MSR for now. Luna says, the Intrepid is actually nice. I bought that once upon a time. I like the Intrepid. I know it was a bit of an ugly duckling when it first came out, but actually, the only gripe I've got about that ship is it's a pain in the ass to get the SCU boxes between the struts. Other than that, love it. My current pledge is the L22 Clipper Asgard and Ironclad C2 for now. I want something that combines the Asgard and the Clipper. Yeah, I mean, so the Generalist, this might change, but my impression of the Generalist is that the Generalist is not necessarily going to come with huge amounts of cargo room because that's a cargo ship. So I don't think you're going to have something like that. There might be something big enough to carry like a ground vehicle Generalist. That makes sense, right? Something like maybe an STV or like some sort of exploration vehicle. That would make sense, and that would obviously come with some cargo. But I don't think you're going to get anything with the ridiculous space of the Asgard, plus that, and still be calling it a Generalist. That's not to say that there isn't a class of ship that comes later on, like a crafting ship. You'll get some sort of fabricating ship. I mean, the Asgard and Clipper, anything with fabrication units in it, might be the Galaxy. You might be looking at the Galaxy. That sounds like it's... And bear in mind that I'm only talking from a gameplay perspective here. Bearing in mind everything I've said, I'm not talking about money or anything like that. I'm just talking about combining gameplay. Refining, the fabrication version. It won't have the medic necessarily, but it might have cargo and fabrication. So there we go. Sly says, after playing the CCU game for 8 years, I'm now at the point that my CCU chains are locked in and complete, and that's a great relief. If there's a ship down the line that comes out, I'll get it in game. Absolutely. I like the Intrepid. I'm not mad, just disappointed. I mean, fight me. It's fine. Galaxy going to be king of multi-role for a bit with all its different modules. 100%. Galaxy's going to be an impressive ship, I think. It's not something that personally excites me, but I think it is going to be. I think it's going to be an exciting addition to the verse. Sorry, I'm only rocking backwards and forwards because it's doing a squeaking noise, and I was trying to see if it was picking up on the mic. The answer to that is no. No, it's not. So, ta-da! But yeah. So that's where we are at the minute. And there are a couple of other things in the works as well, stuff that I can't talk about. Well, I mean, I could. There's just no point because I talk about it now and then it's not going to happen for a while. And we've already got that with the ready for inspection videos and stuff like that. So yeah, there are a couple of other things that are in the works that I'm excited to bring you and see what you think and you know, again, come from the point of view of a complete noob in these sorts of areas, learning all that there is to learn. So if anyone else is coming from the point of view of I know nothing about this stuff, then I'm really happy to bring that, you know, to them and share my experience to hopefully help inform others. Luna says the favourite part of the Intrepid is the interior looks similar to the pod living units that are available in crowded South Korea and Tokyo. Oh, interesting. I've never been, but it's on my list. If I go anywhere on holiday from now, I think Japan would be up there. So obviously with the Navy, travelled around quite a bit. I've done the Middle East to death, only figuratively, not literally. Was never in combat in the Middle East. Just saying. I've just realised doing the Middle East to death is probably the worst turn of phrase I could have picked as an ex-Navy veteran, isn't it? Really, wearing a tank T-shirt, but it's a good film, and plus I've seen the actual tank. Bovington's an hour down the road, and I've saw Fury, and I saw Tiger 131, and they're cool. So there. But yeah, I've been all around Europe. I've done some of the Far East, so Singapore, Borneo, Brunei. I've done India. I've done Madagascar. All that sort of area. You know, really Maldives, that sort of stuff. Really, really nice. The places that I haven't been, I haven't done South America yet. I haven't done Africa yet. I haven't done Japan. So I know Japan's not a continent, right? I get that, but I haven't been that far. I think Brunei was as far east as we went. I think, if my if memory serves. So yeah, I'd love to see parts of Japan. That'd be awesome. But we'll see. We'll see. So that's where we are at the minute. I think I've kind of answered everything that I said I was going to answer during this stream. So hopefully, no one's going, but he didn't talk about this. And well, if I didn't, then you know I'm sorry. Tough. There's not much I can do about it now. But yeah, looking forward to getting some content to you guys and behind the ships, depending on how good that looks. Might do a stream, so watch out for when that comes out. Might do a quick stream on that, just half an hour, 45 minutes or so, and we will see. Ironclad. I mean, we talked a little bit about the command modules and stuff, working on that. They seem to have the interior sorted because there was some comment in the report about they've looked a lot at the Ironclad Assault, because now that the Ironclad interior is done, they can look to modify that for the Assault. So the Ironclad interior seems to be done. So the rest of it hopefully should be pretty quick. I know it's undergone some changes, so don't expect it to be like it was in the videos. They've said that they've worked a lot on kind of accessibility and it not taking ages to get from one place to the other. So yeah, the interior, your guest, is as good as mine, I think. But yeah, your guest, or even your guess. Who knows? Lots of people thinking that there's not a delay then for Squadron 42. I hope so as well. I'm going to pin my colours to the mast and say I think it will come this year. But I say I'm only, that's not true. I'm saying that because if ever there was a time to get behind CIG, it's when the release date has been firm for the last 2 years. They're making big strides through Star Citizen, which means with more people assigned to Squadron 42, they're going to be making bigger strides in that game. I can only hope, and I really hope we see it this year. And then, you know, I hope they turn out an awesome product. Hope that it's, you know, it's everything that they want, and that it brings more attention, positive attention, to CID and Star Citizen. We can only hope. So that's it for today. Again, link to Pigeon Spaceport down in the description below. Code DGP. The Discord link is also down there if you want to come along. We play games every Friday, 9 p.m. UK time. So the same time that this stream started today. Every Friday we get some beers together or whatever people want to drink, and we just go and do some gaming. It's just to enjoy the game, chill out, rant about our weeks, that sort of stuff. No recording, no nothing like that. Just a bunch of people enjoying the game. And if you are there going, I really wish I had a group of people to play with, you can always come and try us out, and hopefully we'll fit. And you know, if not, then you know, thank you for giving us a look. But just, you know, sometimes the sense of humour is a little bit on the edge. We're not nasty, but we're not normal. it's been good to see you all, and I'm now frantically scrabbling for the music. Do you know what? Sometimes I thought I had this all done, and then realised that I didn't. And this is surprising no one. You're all sat there going, "This is the same every single bloody time." And you know, not enough sausage, says Stunner. I will try again next time. Just in fact, I'll send you sausage pics on Discord. So there you go. You've asked for it now. All right. Thank you very much, all. Thank you very much for your kind words. That's where we are. You've been watching Drinkers of the Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.